Imagine this. A radio light glows red in a small studio. It is 1994, Kigali. You hear a song first, an old one, warm and familiar, the melody steady as breathing. Then the fader drops and a voice comes in, lower and smoother. The voice of a radio announcer who has done this 1,000 nights before. He reads names. He uses a word that feels clean and civic to clear, to tidy, to make safe. Outside, the evening wind crosses a courtyard. People turn the dials on their small sets, lean closer to the speaker, and tighten their grip on whatever is already in their hands. No one raises a flag. No one shouts. It is cooperation, not rage. The picture slips, and we are somewhere else, one summer later. It is 1995. Srebrenica, in Bosnia. A station platform holds the hour, like a shallow bowl. You can hear the scrape of shoes on concrete, the soft command of a raised arm, the curved line of a bus door. Men and boys to the left, women and children to the right. There are no insults, only instructions. From far enough away, it might look like order a queue, a timetable, a schedule met. Order is easy to admire. It does its work without noise. Another turn, and we are standing on a schoolyard in Beijing, in 1966. The platform is wooden, put together in a hurry. Chalk moves across a blackboard and leaves a fine white dust that catches on the lips of the wind. Two characters are written with care. Loyalty. Purity. The students read them as if they were learning a new poem. The teacher stands in the ring of bodies and looks down at his shoes. The children do not curse. They simply pronounce. When the words are smooth, the hands are steady. Night comes, and the yard holds only paper scraps and a broken ruler. A heavy door opens, and we are in Moscow in 1937. On the desk rests a printed sheet with squared lines and 3 clear columns. The heading is a number, an order filed in a drawer among other drawers. 1 column for places, 1 column for categories, 1 for counts. The clerk signs and presses a stamp. The sound is damp and final. A little red ink clings to a fingertip and will not quite wash away. He thinks of targets, of schedules, of the relief that comes when a difficult task is done and reported. We move again and reach East Berlin in the 1982nd. Gray folders stand like a tidy wall. Paper against paper makes a soft friction, as if rubbing sleep from tired eyes. Someone, who is not angry and not cruel, marks a small square on a form and writes a line, to be observed further. The paper is light in the hand and heavy in the life it lands upon. One more step and we are in a Polish town in 1942, Józefów. The men are not hardened soldiers. They are middle-aged, a little round in the middle, the sort you might ask to help lift a piece of furniture. Their captain tells them what must be done, and, almost kindly, says anyone who wishes may step aside. A few do. Most do not. They tell themselves this part is escorting, tomorrow will be guarding, the day after that, assisting. Just for today is a slow staircase that descends by half steps, and then a courtroom in Jerusalem in 1961. Behind glass sits a man whose words come out neat and undisturbed, like files in a cabinet. He speaks of schedules, of timetables, of transport. He did not wield a weapon, he says. He managed the route. Each sentence is reasonable. Each reason is a small door opening to a corridor with no windows. If you are searching for horns, you will not find them. You will find a suit and a habit of procedure. These scenes are far apart on the map, yet they belong to the same corridor. We could call it by heavy names, but heavy names are often shortcuts, and tonight I am trying to take the long way, the way that looks at rooms, at furniture, at the work of hands, at the soft machinery of words. We have a taste for big explanations, ideology and history, isms and movements. But there is also something smaller, closer, something that lives in the way a sentence is softened, the way a role is assumed, the way a person stands in a room and lets the room decide. Listen for this pattern and you will hear it. People do harm most easily when harm has been cleaned and pressed, when it is spoken in the language of order and safety, when the act is framed not as cruelty but as contribution. We do not like violence. We like to be useful. And usefulness, in the right tone of voice, can carry you very far. The first step is gentle. It often begins with a word. Kill is a blade. Clean is a broom. Beat is a fist. Correct is a pencil. Expel is a door slammed. Transfer is a bus route. Change the word and the hand loosens its tremor. Change enough words, and a day fills with tasks instead of crimes. A person will say them and believe them because the body relaxes when speech is smooth. Language is a warm bath. It quiets shivers. The second step is a line. It can be as small as a color difference in two armbands, as faint as a new label on a file. We and they is a door we can draw with a crayon. Once it is drawn, attention narrows. Compassion is not abolished. It is redistributed. We still care deeply for our side, our safety, our peace. It is the art of the boundary that makes another face harder to see. The third step is a room. A room full of forms and clipboards, a studio with a red light, a schoolyard with a microphone, a station with a line of buses, a barracks with a roster. We are creatures of place. We take our cues from furniture. A desk says, do your job. A platform says, say the words. A studio says, speak clearly. None of these rooms ask you to hate. They ask you to perform. And then there is the hum of belonging. Most of us fear not error but isolation. When one note fills the air and repeats, we become careful with our own pitch. If this is what my friends believe, if this is what my coworkers assume, if this is the mood in the meeting, perhaps I will pocket my question and nod. Nodding is contagious. Silence, especially the sensible kind, wears the costume of consent. If you sleep to this video, if you drift on the sound of these pictures, it is not because the subject is small. It is because the voice is even and the light is low. We are talking about the most ordinary route to harm, the route where nothing feels dramatic, where you can go home at the end of the day and say, I followed instructions. It is not a grand excuse. It is a path made of small stones. Think of the announcer in Kigali who knows, in some corner of himself, that the words he chooses carry a sharp edge. He slides a joke over the edge the way you might slide a coaster under a glass ring on a table. I am only reporting, he might say to the dark room when the song plays. I am only warning people to be cautious. And sleep comes, because the mind looks for a pillow. Think of the soldier on the Srebrenica platform whose heel is raw inside his boot. He tells himself he is keeping order, and order is good. He repeats that sentence until the blister stops hurting. The words are a balm applied to the skin from the inside. Think of the student in Beijing who recites a phrase with care and then goes home to the small desk where a math assignment waits. In the morning, he returns to the platform and reads the line he left unfinished. Children are able to believe a word so completely that it becomes furniture. It can hold their weight without collapsing. Think of the clerk in Moscow who holds no particular grudge and who takes pride in the neatness of his files. He performs a miracle of distance. He imagines the harm happening elsewhere, far away from the table where his pen moves. The farther the harm, the lighter the ink. Think of the note-taker in East Berlin whose handwriting rounds off into a calming oval. She tells herself that paper is cold, and she must be cold too. It is easy to be precise with facts and vague with consequences. Precision is satisfying, vague is forgiving. Think of the policeman in Josephu who repeats, today is escorting, today is only escorting, until only wears a groove in the floor. The smaller the word, the deeper the groove. None of these faces are demons. They are what we mean by neighbors. And this, perhaps, is the heaviest part of the story. A person will, without malice. We picture villains and miss the mirror. If we ended here, perhaps the room would feel colder. So let us add back what is often subtracted in large explanations. Small resistances that do not make speeches. In Kigali, a listener turns the volume knob down and does not knock on her neighbor's door to share the broadcast. In Bosnia, a driver takes a road he knows to be slower because he hears in the engine a sound that suggests delay. In Beijing, a student closes a booklet and says his throat is sore. In Moscow, a name acquires an extra stroke and the form must be retyped tomorrow. In East Berlin, a memo is copied poorly, as if through fog. In every time and place, there are people who sprinkle a pinch of sand into the gears. The machine does not stop. It warms and complains. The timetable slips. A few names fall from a list, not because someone made a speech, but because a human hand introduced friction. If you ask what we most fear, it is not being wrong. It is being alone and being unsure. When a room hums with a single note, the first person who says, "I am not certain," sounds like a wrong key. And so, we learn to travel with the current until the current becomes a rule, and the rule becomes a custom, and the custom becomes a fate. Nodding grows into policy. Policy grows into a wall. After a while, no one remembers who lifted the first brick. There is a way back, and it also begins with a word. When someone suggests cleaning, ask softly what the broom will push where. When someone suggests correction, ask softly what the hand will do to the face. When someone suggests transfer, ask softly who will not come back. You are not accusing. You are restoring names. Words, once rinsed, can be stained again. A stain is not a triumph, but it is a truth. You do not always need to declare. Sometimes you only need to delay. The stamp can wait on the table. The bus can wait by the curb. The file can rest, unresolved, until morning. Delay is not glory. Delay is the space in which someone else may find their own small act. Courage does not always arrive as a banner. It arrives as a pause. I am trying, as I speak to you, to keep our steps slow. The subject wants to run. I want it to walk. In psychology, you could find many handsome explanations for what we are tracing. The way responsibility spreads until it is too thin to feel. The way identification with a goal can disguise obedience as devotion. The way silence creates the illusion of unanimity. But I promise not to stack ideas like plates. I promise to keep us in rooms, with objects, with voices, and paper, and light. That is often where our minds remember. That is where consciences live their small lives. At a desk, at a microphone, beside a bus, under a fluorescent hum. I remember that courtroom in Jerusalem because of the furniture. The glass barrier was meant to make the room safe. It also made the man inside feel like a display, an exhibit that explained itself. He did not explain himself with anger. He explained himself with grammar. He had roots, timetables, efficiencies. Evil, if we must use the word, did not grow horns. It learned schedules. It learned to conjugate in the passive voice. It is possible to be carried by a cause and to call that movement love. That is why it is so gentle. To serve safety, to honor purity, to complete a task. Each of these sentiments can rest on the tongue like clear water. The more they shine, the easier it is to push aside a single human face and call it a pebble on the path. If you have ever stepped over a pebble without looking, you understand most of history. What, then, do we keep for ourselves when the room darkens? I would keep 3 small tools, and I would keep them where I can reach them without noise. The first is a word. I want the courage to bring a softened term back to its full weight, not to accuse, not to humiliate, but to ask for accuracy. Do we mean to push these people out? Often, said like that, a sentence loses its shine. The second is a second. I want the habit of pausing before I act on behalf of a system. A second is not a barricade. It is a window. Through it, you can sometimes see what the procedure hides. The third is a hand. I want at least one gesture every day that moves weight toward the single person in front of me and away from the faceless many. Systems do not answer kindness. People do. You might think this is small counsel. You are right. But so is the stamp, so is the switch on the radio, so is the chalk. We are not built to hurl boulders. We are built to place and lift pebbles. The shape of a path is the sum of many small stones. Perhaps you are listening now in the dark, the screen turned face down, the room soft with the night's own breathing. Let your mind return to the images without holding them too hard. The studio light, a dot of red. The platform, a brush of step against step. The chalk on the board, clean characters, and a fine white dust. The form, the number at the top, the square for a signature. The folders, rows and rows, the cardboard edges polished by 1,000 fingers. The bus, a door that opens and closes like a metronome. The court, a glass pane between the exhibit and the audience. No shouting in any of these pictures. Only performance, only routine, only the sound of a stamp, heavy and damp, landing where it is told. And into those same pictures, place the interruptions, small scrapes that do not fit, a turned dial, a missed stop, a hoarse voice, an extra stroke in a name, a smudged copy. Each is almost nothing. Each is, in its way, a thread back to yourself. Through them, a person remains a person, and a room remains a room. Not a fate. Sometimes viewers write and say that a story like this is too dark for sleep. I suppose that depends on what kind of sleep you mean. The sleep I wish for you is the kind that comes after you lay down what you cannot control and pick up what you can. I cannot end the way any of those scenes ended. Neither can you. But we can tend to our words. We can care for our seconds. We can notice when a group is hungry to clap and ask ourselves whether we must clap too. We can let a night pass without adding our signature to a small harm. Tomorrow there will be new forms on the table. There always are. But the ink does not move by itself. And because this is a video that wants to keep you company while you drift, I will bring us back to breath and furniture again. The desk is cool under your wrist. The lamp makes a little circle of gold that does not reach the corners. The radio plays a song you know, and you let the song pass through without catching. The street is quieter than usual. Somewhere, a bus exhales. Somewhere, a file drawer closes. Somewhere, a stamp rests on its side, its face still red, waiting. What is it that we say to ourselves, here, in this circle of light where no one is watching? Perhaps only this. I will try to call things by their names. I will borrow a second before I agree. I will not let a tidy word carry me past a person standing in front of me. You do not need more than that to begin. The rest is repetition. The good kind. The kind that teaches your mouth to favor clarity, and your hands to hesitate in the right places. You have heard, all your life, that courage is loud. Sometimes it is. More often, it is quiet enough to pass as thoughtfulness. It is the kind of courage that can live in a whisper, the kind that will never trend, the kind that ties its shoes slowly while the parade goes by. You do not need to chase the parade or block the street. You need only remember where your feet are and who is close enough to touch. We have traveled together across years and borders with the ease that stories allow. Now let us narrow the distance. The corridor that runs through those rooms also runs through our own days. It is there when you are asked to agree that a person is a problem to be solved. It is there when a policy is announced in a soft voice and a gentle tone, and you feel a brief unease that you are invited to dismiss as nerves. It is there when a group invites you to belong, and, as a small fee, asks you to stop asking a particular kind of question. These are not disasters. These are invitations. You are allowed to decline, and when you cannot decline, you can turn the dial down. You can talk more plainly about the broom, and the push, and the threshold. You can be the person who leaves a sentence unfinished, who lets others discover, to their relief, that they, too, were not sure. The worst that happens is a silence. The best that happens is an opening. I have left until now the object that gives this story its title. It is small enough to fit in your palm. It is heavier than it looks. It is a stamp, rubber, and wood, the sort used to finish a task. In many languages, the word for official is the same as the word for sealed. To complete is to press. There is a little ceremony in it. You lift your hand, you lower it. The sound is both a thud and a sigh. You can make a different ceremony. You can place the stamp down beside the pad and let it rest. You can watch the little pool of red ink deepen and then dry. You can leave the form open and breathe. There is no triumph in this. There is only a refusal to let a small act make a large claim about who you are. You are allowed to keep your judgment, the way one keeps a coat when the weather turns, and everyone else insists you will not need it. There is a line I heard once that I only half believe. That evil is loud and good is quiet, I think both can be quiet. What you do quietly is not less real. The volume is not the measure. The measure is whether you can look at the shape of your day and recognize your own hand in it, and whether that hand, even when it has been mistaken, has tried to be specific about what it is doing. Specificity is a kind of care. Care is the opposite of the corridor. It is late now. The room knows you. The bed has taken your shape and offers it back to you. If you are still awake, let the images slacken. They will blur as all pictures do when the eyelids lower. The studio, the platform, the yard, the desk, the folders, the buses, the glass. Do not hold them in your fist. Let them float and pass. If one wishes to stay, let it be the desk, the lamp, the stamp at rest, the hand unhurried. Tomorrow, you will have your errands and your meetings and your screens. You will meet invitations to speak loosely or to act without seeing. You will also have the chance to ask the small, accurate question, to buy yourself a single beat of time, to choose the word that names. This is not heroic. It is human. The corridor will always exist, so will the doors along it. Sleep is the rehearsal for choosing slowly. As you drift, I will say the names of the rooms once more, not as warnings, not as lessons, but as the quiet inventory of a world that has asked a great deal of ordinary people. Kigali, Srebrenica, Beijing, Moscow, East Berlin, Josephow, Jerusalem. They are far and close at the same time. They are coordinates and mirrors. They are reminders that a soft voice can carry a sharp instruction, and that a soft refusal can dull it. Rest now. Let the breath be simple. In through the nose, out through the mouth, like the turning of a page. In the morning, when the light comes, the desk will be there, and the lamp, and the forms, and the stamp. When your hand rises, you will know it is your own. And when it lowers, it will be slower than before, heavier with attention, kinder with weight. Good night.